We want to start off with a reminder that we are not doctors. Before you make any changes or try something new, always consult with your doctor and medical team first. Chronic illness can vary from patient to patient, so it's always best to consult with your own doctor for what is best for you.
Hello and welcome to IBD Determined. I'm your host, Mason Harvey, and I speak from the role of a patient, and I have Crohn's disease.
And I'm Michelle Harvey. I'm Mason's mom, and I speak from the role of a caregiver. And today's episode is going to be a little different. We are, first of all, we're filming very early, and we made the decision to do this because Mason's birthday is next week. And so we're doing some fun stuff for his birthday. And
we don't want to.
We didn't want, I mean, not that the podcast isn't fun,
no,
but
no, I mean, it's not fun, but all the editing,
all the editing takes time. And then, uploading it. And so I just thought, let's film this early so we can be done.
Work on other things. So,
yeah. And, we're not super prepared because, and I think this is what makes this a good topic, because this is the reason why we're not super prepared. We have been fighting for almost a month now with, well, it's kind of confusing. It's with insurance and specialty pharmacy. And so basically what they want to do is they want to put Mason onto a new biosimilar, which is not a biologic.
No.
And, I think a lot of you listening are, and we'll hopefully answer these as we go along, because we're going to be reading you a few things. You might be thinking, okay, well, so what's the difference with a biosimilar and a biologic? And we do have a video on that. So you guys can watch our other podcast.
You can go check that out.
It breaks it down that more. But the main thing I want to say before we get started on this is biosimilars are not a generic. And in the past few weeks, with all the phone calls and all the people we've been dealing with, we keep hearing the word generic. It's like they're trying to sell it to you as if
kind of hide it,
because we're used to, when we hear the word generic, we think it is identical. And when you're dealing with a chemically produced medication, that's the case. But a biologic cannot be a generic. And they can create something that's a biosimilar that is not identical to the original, but is similar. And so this is where our problem lies in, there's going to be some debate. Some people are already on biosimilars. They start first on a biosimilar. It makes sense with what insurance is doing, why doctors are doing this.
Okay.
This is more about, asking insurance to please stop step therapy and forcing people to try and fail something, especially when you're on something that is working. It makes no sense.
It's incredibly wrong.
I mean, I know it makes sense to their budget and their finances. But
it doesn't it's not right for the person who's living the life with Crohn's and not your budget. It's kind of wrong.
And so it would be one thing if Mason's doctor said, Mason, I'd like you to try this biosimilar.
And at that point, it's like, all right, well, if my doctor says that's a good idea, maybe it's worth a try.
Right.
But when your doctor specifically says, I do not want him on that biosimilar, and insurance says, don't care.
They don't care. And that's...
you can't go against doctor's orders.
This is where the problem is. And so this is a bigger issue than what is being asked of Mason. We have our own separate level of concerns about why Mason should not be switched. And we also know that this is probably not going to go in our favor, this decision. We have been fighting it. We are at our third level now. We are doing an IRO. And I don't think they're going to change their opinions. They haven't listened to reason so far. I don't think they're going to now. And, there's a great chance Mason will do fine on a biosimilar. But there's also a chance he won't. And because of that small chance, I don't care if it's 1%. I don't care what it is. I don't want to risk it for Mason.
And the other thing is that I think is, okay, let me be honest here, a stupid decision on insurance's hand is that with Crohn's disease, a biologic isn't going to work for the rest of your life. It's not going to work until the very end. It works for about 10 to 20 years for some people, sometimes, maybe even shorter.
Yeah, it really depends on the person.
It works for that long, then you have to find a new biologic. And then that biologic is out of the picture. Now you have a limited amount left that could possibly work for you. And so the scary thing is, when insurance really does not care and you found one, maybe one biologic that works for you, and once this one is over, you want to use it to its full extent. Now at least you have extra time that you use that biologic, you
Right.
use it to its full
You've
extent,
exhausted it basically.
and now you can use something
Hmm.
else.
Right.
But when that is still working great, I mean, it's not like insurance is going to be paying for this the rest of my life. They're going to be probably paying for something else later, so they can,
Right.
if they want, try a biosimilar after this is done.
Hmm.
But why try it on a kid? Not FDA approved, it's not shit for a
Right.
kid.
Right. It's
But
important to mention.
when something's already working and you have a limited amount of time for these and you have a limited option amount of options, where do you
Yeah.
go if your insurance starts saying, yeah, no, take them off that? Because the
Right.
problem is once you go off that, there's a chance you build up antibodies. And now what works may not work for you again. And so you can't go back to it. And now you lost an option. You
Hmm.
lost time for that option. You didn't exhaust it. You wasted it. And now you have to find something else and you got to hope it works. It may not even work as well. It may not even work.
Hmm.
And you have to hope that you find one that works. And so it's extremely unfair.
And I think that's kind of like with, I'm not, 100%, but like immunogenicity. And I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but the more you bounce around and you move people around on these biologics, what Mason says, right, what he was just talking about, this happens and it is a major concern. You don't, these are not like, we're not talking aspirin. We're not even,
Mhm.
this is a major drug that is being used to help keep these people alive and
Mhm.
healthy and able to
It's not like
thrive.
insurance says, you know what, that Claritin isn't working. Let's try something else.
Right.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's going to do the same thing. Maybe it's something else. And you're not going to build up antibodies and never
Hmm.
be able to come
Because
back to
that's
it
a
again.
chemically made
Hmm.
product. It's different.
You're going to be able to try something else. But when you may not be able to ever go on that biologic again and it works for you,
Hmm. And I
you
mean,
know,
this can mean for people like when they want you to fail something, it's like it's
that's not, especially when you get a letter in the mail to your kid that says you have to try and fail.
yeah.
Try and fail.
When they're on something that is
That is
working, but
working
now they want you to,
to try
it's
something
like
and
they all of
fail
a sudden
for their.
they want you to be a test
Mhm,
subject for their these new products that were literally the two that they recommended to Mason Uncle over that were just approved by the FDA
mhm.
and not for children, which
Which
is
seems kind of
crazy.
illegal. If the doctor thinks that's good, the doctor knows best. The doctor knows the
Yes,
science. The doctor knows all this. The doctor knows what's best for
but a
you. A
pharmacist,
insurance company or a pharmacist
mm-hmm,
thinking that a biologic that's not even FDA approved for a kid, and they're not even a doctor.
mm-hmm.
It's insurance company and a pharmacist. What do they know about you? And
And
they're making you do this.
I think it's important to also mention because with this. So when we say not FDA approved, it says if you look at, we went to the FDA and I have researched these two drugs that they've recommended, which are Ozempic and Stakema. Nothing against them.
No, nothing against them.
But when you look it up, it says for Crohn's disease, they are not recommended for children because they have not been proven safe or effective.
So let me get this right.
So,
Insurance wants to take you off
mhm,
a biologic that works,
mhm,
that is working great, and they want to put you on a biologic that's
mhm,
not recommended for children.
right.
And I'm a
And there's not
child.
enough data because these are so new to show that these are safe or effective. Whereas Stelara, there is
Has a
years
lot
of
of
data and
mhm,
studies.
a lot
And
more.
I believe even in Europe, it was actually just approved for the treatment in children of Crohn's disease at the beginning of April. And so there are differences. So it's very interesting when you get a letter and they say these have been proven just as safe and effective. And you're like, not for this
Check the
age group.
FDA.
Yeah.
Did you
And
do your
so
research?
so basically, that's our stance. The biosimilar may be just fine,
Mhm.
but
I
again,
mean,
just
honestly,
not at risk.
no hate to
No,
the biosimilars.
no,
They're
and they
trying to
work
make
great for some of you
yeah,
probably out
they're trying
there.
to make it different when they're trying not to make the monopoly for
Hmm.
and still are until and they're
Hmm.
trying to give you more options, which I
Right,
think is great. But it's
right,
really unfair when you are on a biologic that works
right,
and you're only going to be able to be on it for a limited time, and they're forcing you to switch to something else and
right.
fail it, and they're saying once you fail it, you can come back,
So
but then you build up antibodies, so you can't go
right,
back. So
it's like so it's
if I
kind of
fail,
like Mason had said the other day. It's almost like they don't even care if you're alive or not
Yeah, because
because
you're costing them extra money. At the end of the day, I'm costing about $1 million or
yeah, a
so a
year.
year for insurance companies. It's not like they really care, it's just another
I mean, it sounds
amount of
awful,
money. Yeah.
but it was
I mean,
his
it is
feelings
awful,
on it.
but when you say to a kid, you have to fail this in order to get back to something that when you get back to it, you're going to have antibodies. Okay. That doesn't really feel fair,
No,
you
no.
know, it doesn't feel right, but
It's frustrating. And so basically, we disagree overall with insurance and a pharmacy having the power to make a non-medical treatment switch
mhm.
against our
Over a
doctor's
doctor.
wishes. Right.
Because
That's
our
the
doctor
thing.
said that she does not want me to change my biologic or to be on uh, the biosimilar.
Hmm.
And it's crazy that oh yeah, your doctor is your doctor is crazy. Don't listen to them. Listen to us
Hmm.
because we really know how to save money.
So
Mhm.
this started March 12th. We got a notice, and I don't believe our doctor ever got a notice, which
No,
is another kind of, I think, violation. But with that aside, we notified our doctor right away, so they did have a copy and could fight this. But the first thing we got in the mail was showing that, this was March 12th. They told us as of April 1st, Mason would be being switched to two covered alternatives. Okay, and those are the biosimilars. And the thing is that's frustrating. I have the paper right here, so I'm just reading right off of it. They discuss how they first decide which drugs are comparable, then the committee considers cost and the coverage status on your formulary. I don't see anywhere in there where they consider health, well-being, um, current remission status. That's
hmm
not being considered. Only the cost and the coverage status on your formulary. And their goal, they
authentic.
say here, is to provide the best quality medications at the best value. Nowhere in there about the patient.
No, about
Nowhere
the
in there.
health.
So their goal is not Mason's health.
Mm-mm.
Their
Not
goal,
your health, not
right.
my health.
Their goal is the
It's
best
their
quality
money.
medication at the best value.
Hmm
And how does a pharmacist or a committee determine over Mason's doctor what is better for him? It's wrong. And, so that was the first letter we got. So our doctor wrote a letter, and I'm not gonna read her entire letter. Um, but I think we can pull a few things out of here. So you can see what is being said in response to this that was sent back to our health solutions company in response to these pharmacists. It says it's a pharmacy and therapeutics committee that made this decision. When you talk to the pharmacy, they say that it's because insurance is forcing them. So even though this is pharmacy, it
So they're
is
basically blaming
insurance.
each other and going in
Yeah,
circles.
right. Fingers are being pointed. And because these are part of the calls I've been making is to figure out who do I need to speak to? Like what are we dealing with? Do I need to file a complaint with the State Board of Pharmacy, or do I need to can I file a complaint with the State Board of Insurance? I'm not sure where I can go with this if I'm frustrated. So that's part of it. So one of the things his doctor said, which I think is important, is she says given the refractory nature of his condition and the lack of pediatric specific data on biosimilars, I urge you to allow continuation of the originator product, Stelara. This is by his doctor who's been by his side for almost 5 years
Hmm
and helped Mason find the right biologic that would work for him.
So why have a doctor if insurance can say your doctor has no power and they're just going to do what they want?
Mm-hmm.
You know what?
Right.
How can insurance do
It's
that?
like, yeah, it's like, so who do we listen to? Because, yeah. And the next thing that she says is the risk of disease relapse or loss of response after a non medical switch, because that's what this is.
Mhm.
It is of significant concern in this high risk pediatric patient. Pediatric inflammatory bowel disease tends to be more extensive and aggressive than in adults, and any treatment interruption can lead to flares, hospitalizations, growth impairment, and increased need for corticosteroids or surgery. And so this is what she is saying specific to Mason. Some of you are going to, this is what she is explaining to them. And I want to point something out. Like, this isn't a huge deal, but Mason is 5'3".
hmm
He is going to be 16 years old. In his projected growth before his diagnosis, I think he was like 5'10", 5'11" was the predicted height. And so we are pretty far away from that. And part of helping that growth is staying on these biologics that are letting his body get the nutrients correctly, letting everything operate so he can grow. This is a really important time in his life. This is it. You get a window.
hmm
And when that window closes, you don't
You
grow
done?
anymore. And so to remove him from something when growth is part of the pediatric IBD
And not to mention, if
diagnosis,
you go into a flare, you have to take steroids,
which
which,
also which he has bone density issues,
mhm,
and that is going to affect that.
yay.
So there's I know those of you listening right now with IBD 100% understand this and know all the depth, the levels that this goes to, the complications, the major problems, the surgeries, the possible ramifications for his future. Um, is huge. She goes on to give some examples where she says that biosimilars are generally considered clinically comparable. There remains limited data specific to pediatric IBD and to ustekinumab biosimilars in particular, because this is the switch ustekinumab, which is Stelara. And so these are all valid concerns. And these are my concerns as well, because this is his doctor. This is his doctor saying that. And so she provides, she provided articles, links to cite her concerns. Also, the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation, they have a statement, and I found this too because I use this in my letter because I'm fighting with Costco HR department on the other side of this to help our doctors. So I've been doing separate letters and working with them separately. And so I did find this, and you can find this too. But they advise that non-medical switching from originator to biosimilar in stable patients should be avoided unless clinically necessary, especially in populations with limited direct evidence, such as pediatrics. So, right there, it's like they're ignoring the facts. And so then she says, in this case, the risk of relapse due to immunogenicity or altered pharmacokinetics, and I'm not sure how to pronounce that, but after switching from Stelara to a biosimilar cannot be ethically justified when the patient is currently in remission on the reference product. And so she also goes on to say a forced switch at this stage poses an unacceptable clinical risk and may jeopardize the patient's health and well-being. She provides a bunch of details on the his diagnosis at this point, where the disease was located, which was in numerous parts of his body. She also includes his other diagnoses. So after reading this letter, she sent this in, and I thought, this is great because this is our doctor showing valid concerns, explaining why in Mason's case this wouldn't be good. We got a denial. Pretty quickly, they denied that appeal that she wrote, and their decision. So I'm gonna share, because we got that on March 31st, and keep in mind, so Mason's on this every 4 weeks, and so the other main concern, and that insurance knows, we don't have time on our side. So they're backing us into a corner to essentially where we have no choice because we do not want to interrupt Mason's treatment. That's not an option. And so this was discussed with the doctor too, because that's not an option. And so you're on limited time. Insurance knows that. And they know that they've got you. So March 31st, which keep in mind, the first one was March 12th. This is March 31st now. We get the denial. And I think that this is really important to read to you guys specifically what they say. So it was a pharmacist that reviewed all the information provided. A pharmacist.
A pharmacist,
okay.
not even a,
right.
no,
No.
not a doctor, not a.
They reviewed the appeal, and they determined that a decision was made to uphold the denial for Stelara for the following reason. They must try and fail Stakema or
That's a
Yacentic.
strong word right there.
Right. So that was their reasoning. That was in response to this letter. And I only read you a portion of what there's a bunch of stuff. I didn't want to read all of it. And so that is their response to our doctor's logical reasons why this shouldn't happen, why you shouldn't be switching this.
Answering logical things with illogical answers.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. And so their response was, okay, well, we want him to try and fail. After she just explained how bad a failure would be for him, they want to take
surgery, a flare,
and it's
steroids.
Just, and it's
cool. Don't care.
And it could be damage for the rest of his life. This isn't something that is like failing a test. Oops, okay.
Yeah, treating it like it's a little history test or something,
And so we decided to file a second level appeal. And I continued to work with Costco Human Resources, who I'm sure is probably a little sick of me at this point. And I'm just tired of this. And
sick of how people can get away with this.
Yeah. It's like, it's not just my child, it is other people's kids, other adults.
Because it's not just me.
No.
That's not why we're making the podcast. We're making the podcast because all of you guys are being affected by it too. I'm being affected by it. And you even seen like the Crohn's group that kids are getting switched without people don't even know.
Right. Our doctor's office said people just show up with a new injection. And it's like, when did this happen? They just insurance just sent it.
And because
They're
most
just doing
people
this.
don't really notice and they wouldn't really
Right.
bat
Because,
an eye.
well, you would think, like logically,
Hmm.
oh, if my pharmacist changed a biologic, they would have got permission from the doctor. So somewhere along lines, and it's like, no, the doctor didn't even know.
No.
And so I'm just thinking in my head,
Insurance
how
is being really
how
sneaky.
is this possible? Like, how can this be happening? And this is also different. There's also the same step therapy, the same kind of try and fail thing that has to do with when you're even trying to get a biologic. So it was hard enough to get Mason on
Hmm.
these. We went through this battle already. This is new to us with the biosimilar. And again, we're really just trying to stand up for people and force insurance to do the right thing and not
Hmm.
just what is cost effective at the risk or expense of somebody's health. This is what is disturbing. So our doctor did another letter and tried to appeal this again. And on April 11th, we got another response that their decision again, because this was made by another pharmacist. They're happy to let us
Yay.
know this,
The
but
pharmacist got an axe to
yes, but
grind.
don't worry, this is not the same pharmacist. This is a different
Yay, it's
one.
another
This is
one.
another one.
Because surely two pharmacists is better than one, right?
Right, exactly. Because a pharmacist surely knows Mason's condition of Crohn's disease better than his
Hmm.
IBD specialist, GI
Totally.
doctor. It just makes a lot of sense.
They're totally
So
GI professionals.
we got the notice that their decision was made to uphold the denial again.
Yay.
Um,
Well, I guess two
yeah,
pharmacists aren't better than one.
yeah. And their main reasoning again is because Mason has not tried and failed enough medications.
This is
The
stupid at this point.
stupidity
It's stupid.
is like, so, and I've explained, like in past arguments too, I've done this. The cost of a hospital stay, the cost of surgeries, the
It's
cost
going to cost
of,
them a lot
it's
more.
going to
They're going to
cost
hurt
you
themselves in the
a
end.
lot more. I mean, yeah, it's like what are they thinking? And
Mm,
so
they're-
reasoning for denying Mason this, and he has to try and fail a bunch of drugs first. There is
Yay.
a list, and this is where it gets interesting. The drugs that he can use that he needs to try and fail, they have adalimumab products, which those
No.
that's not even part of this class of Stelara that
No, they
he's
don't even
taking.
attack the same
Not
thing
even the
anymore.
same
They don't
thing.
even help the same thing.
Cimzia, Rinvoq, all ustekinumab products, which have Stakema and Yosentec, and Skyrizi. And so these are the
Hmm.
things that they want him to try and fail, despite him being on something that's working
They're already working.
and he is having good health. They want
Hmm.
him to have potentially bad health and go through all of these. Now, if he was to do that, these are all different classes of drugs. And
They're
then
all
they list,
different. Now it's like Remicade kind of, where it's like, oh,
Mhm.
Remicade didn't work for me, but and Tevio and Stellara did. They all attack different things. They all do different things. Like they attack the different IL cell, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Um, they do different things. And
Yep.
so you want me to go on a biologic that doesn't even
Not even the
do the
same
same
class of
thing, not
drugs.
even the same class.
Right.
And and that's definitely probably going to fail. You
And then
know,
if you cycle through those and those fail you,
hmm
then in the future those may not be an option, any of those classes. And so
because
you
yeah,
can't just
antibodies.
these again, you can't just switch these all around
Mm-mm.
and do all these. This is way bigger than that. And this is where the doctor's concerns are. And so you know, the thing is, it's just that this is ridiculous that this can be forced upon you. And so
You shouldn't be able.
I was like, okay, I felt like something isn't right here. So I started doing my research, and what I found was that there is I'm going to look here really quick. I have my letter. So I'm going to start bringing into this a letter that I wrote to the IRO. So it's independent review that we're having done. It's really against our choice. This is the procedure we have to follow. We don't want to have, this decision is going to be binding. And we know they're not going to side with us. If they wouldn't listen to reason before, and this is what they kept coming back with, oh, he just needs to try and fail things. Like we're not going to get a better response. I highly doubt it. But I still, wrote a letter because what I needed to do is do my research and make sure I had something before I start accusing. But so this is one thing I tell Mason. We can be frustrated all day long about certain decisions, but we have to make sure we're also within our rights
Hmm.
and we are not
Not
pushing
acting, yeah,
something,
pushing something that
yeah,
isn't
that
true.
that isn't true
Hmm.
or isn't in fact part of the law, things like that. So one of the things I started researching was how a pharmacist can change a biologic to a biosimilar without a doctor's permission. And also important to know, guys, biosimilars, there's something called an interchangeable biosimilar, which can be substituted by a pharmacist,
Hmm.
but a biosimilar cannot.
Yeah,
And
biosimilar is not an interchangeable
it's not the
biosimilar.
same
There is a
thing.
difference. There's a reason there's a
Right.
word in front of the other one.
And you guys can check this on the purple book on the FDA. You can see what you're taking to see if you're on a biosimilar, you can see if you're on a biosimilar or interchangeable biosimilar. So the ones that they're recommending for Mason are just
They're
biosimilars.
not interchangeable
Right.
biosimilars.
I started researching this, and because I looked on the FDA website, I confirmed first of all these were biosimilars, not interchangeable. And then when I started looking up what pharmacists can do, it was specifically stated a pharmacist cannot substitute a biosimilar for a biologic. They can't do this. And so I'm looking at this going,
Interesting. So you're telling me that this pharmacist is breaking the law?
right. And so then I'm
He's
thinking,
breaking the
well,
law. Oh, yeah,
maybe
okay,
this
got
isn't
tell him.
for California. Maybe
Hmm.
this is,
This isn't a
so
state
let me check our state. So I checked with the California State Board of Pharmacy. I spoke directly with an inspector who works for them. She confirmed I was correct. Because a biosimilar is not a generic. It cannot
Hmm.
just be substituted. And the provider, the prescriber, his doctor is the one who has to give that
Yeah.
permission.
And she already said she didn't want that, and they just flat out ignored
They
that.
ignored it.
So,
And so I asked
illegal?
this inspector, I'm going, because I had also done my other homework, and on the side there's a bill, it's a Senate bill 621 that passed in,
Mhm.
I think, 2015. It's a California state bill. And it also confirms and outlines this procedure that biosimilars can be, substituted for biologics, but only at the request of the prescriber with their permission. A pharmacist, they can't just go
Cannot
around
be
doing
doing that.
this.
Nope.
And so it outlines this, and it talks about the difference between interchangeable and regular biosimilars. Do most people know these things when you get these notices in the mail?
Nope.
No, you
So
would
they can get
think
away with it. Hmm.
that everyone's operating above board and this is right. And
Hmm.
so I'm like, okay, so can I file a complaint? Well, first of all, a complaint takes 6 months about to,
Wow.
right, which is,
6 months? I
I'm
don't
not
think it should
like,
take that long,
I'm
but
not,
okay, whatever.
well, I'm not mad at them,
No.
but that's the process. And in that time, Mason will have had at least 6 to 7 injections. So
Yay.
that's not going to help us. So it was frustrating thinking, we can be forced to switch to something because
Illegal.
we won't have time to get our rights addressed for 6. This is awful. So she did say to me though that this didn't fall to the typical pharmacy category because this is through our specialty pharmacy, through our health solutions, through a benefits part of our insurance.
Mm.
So the problem is we couldn't even file a complaint because this is not the same standard. So now I'm like, where do I go now?
You can get away with a lot of things
Right.
now, huh?
What do I do now? And so I do know now that they're not supposed to be doing this, but who's going to help me enforce this?
Hmm.
We have a law that went into effect to protect people. But it doesn't. And there's a loophole that these insurance companies can still force you to do this. And, because it's not pharmacy, but it is their
Hmm.
pharmacist. It says on all the paperwork, it's a
So pharmacist, not a
pharmacist who
special
determined this.
pharmacist,
And
not a doctor, not
so
a
it's
provider.
extremely frustrating because you're like, and I've called the grievances department, we've called our insurance, we have called our health solutions, we have Costco HR. I have been working nonstop on this, and it is so frustrating to feel like you just go around in a circle and you're back to where you
And
started. And
insurance is like talking to a wall, isn't it?
yeah, it's like, so
Yeah, cool. Cool
as of
fact.
right
So,
now, I don't really know where we stand or what I don't really know, but it just doesn't seem right.
no.
They have something called FDA prescribing information, and that is on the FDA's website. You can just Google like I just put in Yasentech prescribing information FDA, like I searched that, and you can pull up their whole prescribing sheet. And the other the interesting thing I found there, and I didn't want this is one of those things we talked about. If we don't know it's a fact, what it looks like to me in all the searches I did, that these biosimilars just do their clinical research that proves that these are effective and work just as clinically well as the other one is not performed on multiple groups of people. And so I had, and again, I talked about the purple book search. Take a look, purplebooksearch.fda.gov. You can go on there, you can look, and you can type in Stelara, and it'll pull up every biosimilar for that drug. And then it'll pull up the interchangeable biosimilars. And so you can see what yours falls into. And
Mhm.
so in my letter, I had written, so this is my quote that I quoted in it. Pharmacists may substitute biologics with biosimilars only if the FDA has declared they're interchangeable. These two
Are not
are
FDA
not
approved.
FDA approved to be interchangeable. So that already says the pharmacist can't do that.
Mm-mm.
And it goes on to say if the FDA has not concluded the biosimilars interchangeable with the reference product, pharmacists cannot independently substitute one for the other. And
And that's
the
what they're doing.
prescriber has to be in agreement with this change.
So it looks like they're just breaking all the rules,
So it's like either they're sliding by because they're saying, oh, this isn't a pharmacy, this is the health benefits department making this decision.
even though it still says pharmacist on everything.
But I believe what the state board told me is that, insurance has to go by the same guidelines. And,
Mhm.
you know, I just, so I'm not understanding how this can even happen. And I'm more concerned about the rights of people and what's being taken from them. And for people who can't fight, who don't know, who don't have the access I have to search all this out and to know your rights. And so it's like they're just getting away with telling you this stuff. They tell you it's a generic, they tell you it's the same thing, they tell you it's safe. But when you look it up, it says for a child, it's not safe right on the FDA's website. And so it's like they contradict themselves right away. And again, if it was Mason's doctor suggesting this, different.
Hmm.
It would be very different. If your
Yeah,
doctor suggested,
if your doctor is okay with it, okay, well that
right,
makes sense. When your doctor says no, and the pharmacist still says
right,
yeah, you're like, okay, well
that's
that
the
doesn't make
difference.
sense. That doesn't add up.
Right,
What are
that's
you
the
doing?
difference. And so where we're at right now, we're still battling this.
Yeah.
I don't have high hopes for this going through. I
Hopefully we
think
can raise
our
some awareness.
that's what I'm trying to do and let you guys just know that this is happening. People need to know that this is happening. And we could have a few things incorrect in here. I like I said, we're just doing our best to provide the information we've discovered that we've been sharing back and forth with everybody. Uh, Clearly, they think they're in the right because they're able to do this. I don't,
Clearly, a pharmacist thinks they're better than your doctor.
because I mean, I keep feeling like I have to have something wrong here because how could a company take this liability and force a medication change on your child that could potentially harm them and against a doctor's wishes? How can all this happen? And they must feel they have a strong legal leg to stand on because I don't think liability wise they want to open themselves up
Mm-mm.
to lawsuits and issues with this. So I don't know. I might be missing something, but
Either that you
everything
did do that or there's something else to it. And there's a little loophole that they can say,
right.
nope,
There's that
not that,
loophole.
totally not that. Mm-mm.
Right. And so, we will obviously if we're still hoping that Costco HR can help us with this. That's kind of like our last hope on this for them. And if this doesn't work out in our favor, Mason goes on to a biosimilar, then
Unfortunately, that.
that's what happens. And I don't plan though on just sitting back and saying this is okay. And because there's going to be more kids besides Mason that this is happening to. It's not right. It's
You
just not right.
saving, I mean, that's the thing about this. Someone's life isn't worth saving your money, you
Yeah.
know?
But that's how the insurance looks at it. They don't care.
No.
They're looking at the bottom
And let's
line.
be honest, $1 million a year
Yeah.
is quite expensive. But they're going to be paying more when I'm hospitalized
Well,
and getting a
just
surgery, you know?
that's the thing. And then there's going to be
Then they're going to say, well, you shouldn't have gone to the hospital. Oh.
well, and then you still will need a
Mm-hmm. They're going to
biologic
need another
to
biologic.
keep like it doesn't mean having these surgeries means it solves it. So it just means Mason could be at risk for other problems. He
Hmm.
could lose.
And then I might have problems in the future, maybe, because there's things that
Hmm.
uh, I need surgery or something. I'm going
Right.
to have something that's get messed
We
up.
don't want to unnecessarily create risks, and
No.
that is what insurance is doing.
Unnecessary,
Right.
incredibly.
It's an unnecessary risk to save them some money. And it's this just this you would think this shouldn't happen. You'd think, how does this happen? And with us, we have called every person we can complain to, and we have been kind about it. We have been direct. We have you know explained what we have, the facts that we have on our side. And you still feel you get the brush off because everybody, okay, well, you're gonna need to do this and file this. And it's like, I know all that, but it's just amazing that you can't. have somebody just say, "Oh, this is wrong. Yeah, no,
Hmm.
they can't do this. We'll just keep them on this."
Yeah. No,
That's,
you just go on
and
with it.
so anyways, I'm not sure how this is going to end because we're still involved in this, but I thought, we'll talk about this because this is what we're going through right now, and it has been a lot. It has been on our minds, and it's kind of hard right now to think of another podcast idea and
Hmm.
what we want to talk about when this is something to talk about and something important. And
So yeah, there's a chance that if you go to your hospital and there's a different biologic, there's a chance that your kid is secretly part of an experiment,
yeah,
and
secret
no, and you're not getting
experiment.
paid for it.
Right.
So
So pretty soon they'll say, "Oh, well, we have data showing this is effective." And it's like, you know what? That's great. But if you do that, it should be with permission of the
yeah, the
child, the
doctor,
parents,
the
the doctor.
doctor, the parents,
Right.
the patient, kid or
Right.
adult.
And it should be under a well watched, clinical trial if you're
Mhm.
going to do that. There needs to be there needs to also be other groups to compare it to. You need so anyways, it's not properly being done, and I feel like they're just trying to force this. They'll get the information they need, and then pretty soon they can say, "Well, it's working. This many kids are taking it." And there will be kids that are failed by this. And that is the unfortunate part. It doesn't matter if it's one out of 100. It shouldn't matter because that is somebody's child, and nobody's
It's a
child deserves
life.
to fail. It is a life. And
Mhm.
no adult deserves to
No adult,
fail.
no child, no
Yeah.
human.
So this try and fail wording needs to be
There's
eliminated.
no reason to fail because you're
No.
already on something that's working. Now, if you're on something that's not working, if you're trying to find something, sure, go try it. But when you have something that's been working for you, 3
Right.
years, 4 years, almost
Yeah.
5 years,
Yep.
there's no reason to say try something else and fail. It's
Right.
already working. Don't disrupt it.
I can't
Oh,
understand it. I can't wrap my head around it to see this in black when I have the letters here, saying they want him to try and fail. And it's like, who says that to somebody? I could you imagine if your doctor said that to you?
oh my
Well,
God,
first
yeah.
of all, I want you to fail
That doctor
this.
would definitely be in trouble. Yeah, you have to
Yes.
try and fail this
Right. You
before you
can't.
get on that. No, but when
No.
insurance,
The goal of
it's
a doctor is
fine.
not to fail you. The goal of
Mm-mm.
insurance is for you to fail for them to prove that you can go back on what's working for you.
And then it doesn't work because you built up
Right. So
antibodies.
now it's so you really this is a bigger issue, and it's just extremely disappointing that this is happening. We're tired. You could probably see, I mean, I'm
Hmm.
tired. Um but I felt like we had to talk about it, and we will follow
Yeah, we
up.
have to raise awareness to it somehow.
Yeah, it's important to talk about it. You guys have your own experiences with this, and again, this is really not for us to say biosimilars are not going to work. That's
No, but
not
we're
at
not saying
all.
biosimilars are not going to work. We say so biosimilars, they're doing good things. They're trying to find something else that works for you, and nothing against biosimilars. But the thing is, you shouldn't be forced to go on a biosimilar if something's already working.
Right.
But when it's still working strong and there's no
Right.
sign of something's going wrong, it's really wrong that insurance can tell you, yeah, try that biosimilar because we want you to. And
Right.
you have to fail it if you want to go back to your other
And
biologic, which is
And I think
probably not
there
going to
should
work.
be full honesty. Like, if so, like, say Mason had never been on Stelara yet. Chances are at this point, a doctor is probably going to start him on a biosimilar. That is
Hmm.
common because the doctors know they're going to have this fight, and they don't want to mess around and put you on a bunch of different things. So they sometimes know the best solution for someone might be to start them on something so they can stay on it, and insurance will allow it. So they may choose a biosimilar to start you with. But really, there should be this full transparency of saying this is when this was approved. This is how long it's been on the market, and it is not considered safe or effective for a child. So there should be full disclosure with these going on, because otherwise parents are going to feel deceived and feel like they're being lied to about their child's care. And
Yeah.
imagine how it feels to be the kid who's like, they don't even care. They don't, or adults too. I'm saying this because
And
I'm
imagine being
talking,
the pharmacist waving the doctor's orders
yeah, and
because that's
saying
all
like, let's
fine.
just ignore everything they wrote. We're gonna make this. We really want him to try and fail things.
Mhm.
That'd be the
There's
solution.
nothing that is so positive about the word fail.
Yeah. This is kind of it for today. This is where we're going to wrap it up. We have a lot of things to get done today. Like I said, it's Easter is the day before Mason's birthday. So we have
Easter
that. We
insurance.
have yeah. So we
Yay.
have and we'll probably be finding out here in a few days if that IRO what happened with it. Like I said, I don't have high hopes. I have a little bit of hope. I feel like I don't know if I trust these companies at this point to make the best decision for Mason, no
You
matter
trust your
what we say.
doctor,
Hmm.
not the insurance, not the pharmacist, your doctor.
And so with that, you guys can follow us on Team I Be Determined on Instagram. I haven't been updating Instagram as much. I am on Facebook on my personal page more updating on this. But I did mention today. I kind of mentioned I did put on Instagram today what's going on, and you can see Mason. He was golfing in a sand bunker yesterday repeatedly, which was fun. I have a picture of that. So he did really
And I
well,
did
by the
really
way.
well.
Yeah,
And I was doing great in the sand bunker, and that's all because of Stellara.
yeah. Well,
An interview, oh yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Sorry to slide that in.
It's statistics again, right? Or these things you can say. So yeah.
No joint pain.
But no joint pain. This
Yay.
is true. And so he was doing that yesterday, and
He did great
we have
yesterday.
pictures. You can see what we're doing. You can see what we do for his birthday. You can follow along if you'd like, and you can also follow the Reggie Project, share your stories, your diagnosis. So you can check that out
Yeah.
as well. You can listen to us on any podcast station like Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Buzzsprout. We have a link to
To all
Buzzsprout
the
showing
other
all the
podcast
different
ones.
places you can listen.
And
And
then if there's also YouTube podcasts, but those I would usually say those are new, but they're getting kind of old now. Anyways, there's also YouTube videos, which if you want to watch us and see the new background that's been here for
and
two
see how
episodes
tired
now,
we
and see
look
how tired
because
that is.
we're like,
Yeah, that's a great shot.
oh my gosh, like thank goodness for good
Yeah.
lighting. I am telling you, this is yeah,
Fancy lighting.
because
Family.
it's rough. But yeah, you can watch us if you
Yeah,
would
watch us
like
on
to.
YouTube and see our
Hmm.
funny facial expressions reacting to pharmacies and insurances. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
good stuff. Happy stuff.
Yeah, very happy. Around Easter and
Yep.
my birthday. It's great.
But it's important to talk about
Yeah, it is.
because we know you guys are going through this. We know other people are. This
No.
is like not unique. And like, this is the sad part is this is
It's happening to other
extremely
people, and
common.
we want people to be aware of what is
Yeah.
happening to them, their kids,
Right.
their treatments, adults.
Yeah. And
Just want to make it known, and
yep.
maybe
And
something can
maybe
happen about it.
you'll hear something in our podcast that'll help you. Sometimes we hear things from other people who have helped us in the past with other fights. We've been very successful in the past. And this is the first time I think
They
we're
won't
gonna,
stop.
yeah, this has been the most difficult one. And
The time they're gonna win is when they start ignoring facts and keep pushing for what they want.
yeah, the try and fail.
Yep, try and fail.
Step therapy. It's a
Yeah,
great thing,
it is
according
really
to
a great
them,
thing. Yeah.
and only them.
Only
So
them. Yeah, no one else ever said that was a great thing other
yeah.
than their bank account.
So hopefully we can, we'll keep working on this. Like I said, if he goes on to a biosimilar, he does, and
Yep.
that's what happens. But that doesn't mean we are going to still stay quiet
Nope.
and
We are gonna.
not try and find other ways to help find a solution for this problem.
Mhm.
So that's about it. So you guys have a great weekend,
Yeah, have a
and
good Easter. Have a good.
well, by the time they watch this, it'll
Yeah,
be over.
yeah. I hope you had a good Easter.
Yeah, because this is we're recording very far in
Yep.
advance. So you guys will be I think it's like April 24th when this airs,
Okay.
something like that. So you guys will already be past that. We'll be heading towards May when we get
All
there.
right.
So anyways, you guys, thank you for listening. I hope you're not going through something like this right now.
Hopefully
If
not.
you are, please share if we can support
And keep
you or
fighting.
just, offer a
Don't give
virtual
up.
hug. Like
Yeah, give it a virtual hug.
yeah, keep fighting like you said. Don't give up. And
Don't be susceptible.
yeah, and know your rights.
Yep.
And
Know your rights.
yeah. So, anyways, you guys, we will see you guys in a few weeks on the next episode.
Yay.
Bye.
Bye. We hope you will stick around, tune in, and reach out to us with your own journeys. We are excited to give you an inside view of what it takes to be a caregiver and what it's like to be a patient.
And most of all, we hope you'll maybe be able to play something you hear on here that might help you in your own life. Sometimes life changes, and it's all about how you handle the journey.